We now have one-way data binding working with iNotify property changed. I've made a copy of the project. Let's rename the project from data binding one-way to data binding two-way. And let's go ahead and rename the solution as well from data binding one-way to data binding two-way. We'll then change the namespace from data binding one-way to data binding two-way, confirm the refactoring, and with that done, all of the files are updated, and we have a new project named data binding two-way. We can run it just to make sure that it continues to work. We see the initial values, click the change button, everything is working. We're now ready to look at two-way data binding. To do that, we're going to go back to our main window, and we need to make two changes. Right now, we are displaying the name and the title with text blocks. We're going to need to change those to text boxes so that we can have an interaction with the user. And we're going to need to update the binding statement. Let's start by changing the first text block for name to a text box. And then in the binding statement, we'll add a mode statement. Notice the different modes come up, and the one we want is two-way. The default is one-way. We then want to do the same for title. We can get rid of the button. But how will we know that the underlying data has been updated? The easiest way to do that is to add two more inner stack panels and bind them one way to the name and the title, and they'll be updated when the underlying data is updated because of iNotify property changed. That's all we have to do. We don't have to do anything to the underlying data or anything else in the program, simply changing the binding mode to two-way and using an interactive control, in this case a text box. Let's run the program. Program comes up and we can see they're now in text boxes. If I click in the first text box and change the value, as soon as I tab out of that box, the underlying data is changed, and we see that in the text block below that that's immediately updated. I can do the same thing with the title. We can change that to Evangelist, and as soon as I tab out, the underlying value is updated. That's the essence of two-way binding. It allows us not only to bind for display, but also to allow the user to update the data interactively while your application is running.